And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
I have several themes that when I see them in a game, I'm instantly very interested in playing the game. And one of those, of course, is the West, or at least the Wild West. And Carson City really looked interesting the first time I saw that. And yes, once I got into it, it is another worker placement game. In fact, it reminded me quite a bit of a game called Way Out West, designed by Martin Wallace many years ago. And they do have some similarities, but I think Carson City is so easy to teach, it's so fulfilling to play, and it only takes an hour. There's very, very direct confrontation. There's luck if you want it. You can take it out if you don't. The whole thing fits together, and meanwhile feels very thematic. Let me show you briefly what the game looks like. Here we have the whole game board, and it's kind of broken up into sections, but in the beginning, using these two huge, very heavy, fulfillingly to roll dice, and earthquakes, you will set up the board by putting out the starting house. This is the beginning of the town, center city, I suppose, and some starting mountains. Players will receive a bunch of stuff in their color. In fact, let me show you what they get. They get some people, some cowboys, and they get some tokens to keep track of their score. They get some money, and then they get these land-owning tokens, and they also start with one gun. Now, this land token will be put on the board, like such, to claim different properties of land. In fact, you can even, if you want, claim a mountain. You might think that's weird, but it does happen occasionally during the course of the game. You can claim houses, you can claim any spot you want, and that spot is yours. Each player will start with 2 of these spots on the board. The game is only 4 rounds. In each of those rounds, the first thing that players are going to do is they're going to be picking a roll. And you've probably seen this before in other games, but there's 7 rolls involved in the game, and you'll pick one of those. In fact, it's neat because each roll has 2 different versions you can use, the beginner version or a different version, and each one gives you a special ability. For example, if you pick the sheriff, you get a cowboy, an extra cowboy that you can place on the board that can't be trifled with. And that also determines turn order for the course of the game as you pick these numbers. As you can see, the last guy here, he goes last, but he gives you 3 extra guns. They also have a number at the bottom of money, and that's how much money you can keep between turns, which is a very interesting mechanic because you can only keep so much money between turns. You want to save it and use it, so you might want to use this guy because he'll let you keep an extra 120, and he gives you 9 while he's at it. But going first and having an extra cowboy can be really useful, so you might want to take the sheriff. So each player will pick one of those. Then, using however many of these cowboys they have, so in the first round they'll have 3 of them, players will place them on the board in turn order. Now when you place them on the board, you can place them on any spot here, even on a mountain, which means you want to take that spot. You want to control that spot. Or you can place them up here at the top of the board. Now, if you place a cowboy there and someone else places a cowboy there, then you will have to fight a duel to see who gets that spot. And this will happen with almost every spot. There's a few spots, like for example, this first spot, everybody who's put there gets $4, but it shows no guns. There's no duels in that spot. But there's only 2 of those spots on the board. For every other spot, you can fight over. And when you fight, what happens is each player will roll a die and add the number that they roll to any cowboys that they might have in reserve to their amount of guns. The winner gets the spot. The loser gets their cowboy back, and they can use them again next turn. Also, the cowboy they get back will add to future duels. As you can see, each of the spaces here you get money. Here you get a 3-gun token that you can use for this turn. Here you get roads that you can build. When we get to this spot, everybody who's put someone out on the main board will be able to claim their space. And you can, again, fight for these spaces. So there's that. Then down here are different buildings you can buy. You can see the prices underneath them. And when you buy a building, if you have a spot to put it on the board, you can place it on that spot. Each building provides different income. So you can see, for example, here the ranch provides income based on however many empty spaces are next to it. And that includes diagonally. So if I put the ranch here, for example, it's going to be worth 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if my property was there, I would put the 7 next to the arrow. A ranch also counts as a house because some properties count as a house. And it also, you can see it shows a picture of a gun. Gives me an extra gun. And so there's different kinds of buildings. Mines give you money if they're next to mountains. Saloons give you money if they're next to houses. Several of the buildings must be next to roads, so you're going to need to collect roads to build them out. Also, most of the buildings require you to add houses to the board, and you need to be able to put that house in a legitimate location, which is next to the road. And all this is going on, and so you can see, as time goes by with these buildings, your income is expanding. So you can buy these buildings. You can then take money for however many properties you have, how many guns you have. You roll the dice, that's how much money you get. Your properties will provide you income. In fact, let's say I have this ranch here, and the yellow player is an evil jerk and puts his guy here. I will have to give him half my income, unless I put one of my guys there to defend it in a duel. And then the biggest part of the game down here is giving you points. Here you get points for every 2 properties, every 2 guns, every 2 buildings you own. Or you can trade in money, and this is the biggest way, to get points. Once everyone has done all that, the round is over. We move this marker over, canceling out one of the action spaces. We do that 4 times. At the end of the game, you add up your points. You get 2 points for everything you control, whether it's a building, a mountain, or a house, and you end the game. Now realize that was a quick overview. There's so much more in the game. How all the different special abilities there are on the different characters you can pick, the different kinds of buildings, how you place them, where they're put on the board, attacking one another. But I don't know how to. I usually can teach this probably in less than 10 minutes. It's not hard. Everything is very intuitive. The scoring makes sense. There's not that many different ways to score, but there are a whole lot of different options that players have to do. So before you say, another worker placement game, another role selection game, this one combines both of them but puts it in a short time and allows you to really get in someone else's face. Someone making a pile of money from their bank, rob them. Someone takes that prime real estate spot on the board, why don't you try and take it away from them? You can be very, very interactive. And if you're a group that doesn't like being very interactive, you can ignore that part of the game, and I guess you would just have as much fun. Some people won't like the dice, so the game includes tiles that you can use. Instead of rolling a die, you get a certain amount of tiles at the beginning of the game, and every time you have a duel, you use one of your tiles, and the number on that would count as your roll. The board also includes an alternate side that has a river on it, just to change things up. And like I said, there's different rolls that you can mix and match. So really, there's a lot of bang for your buck here. The components are very high quality. This is one of the best games that come out last year. A great theme, a theme that matches, very interactive, lots of strategy. Carson City, get
it. Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.